Hello, welcome to our Props 101 event today. Hello, and thank you everyone for joining. I'm so glad to see you here. If you're watching from the future, hello from the past. So I am going to kick this off because I have so many things to tell you and only an hour to do it. And as you can see behind me, there's a lot of things going on. And I'm going to share them all with you. So first, hi, welcome. My name is Laura Burns. If you don't know me and you happened upon this workshop, training, whatever this is, then welcome. And if you were like told to sign up by your friend, I'm glad you're here. And I am a yoga teacher. I am a fat person. I am a former yoga hater. I am, the author of this new book. Shameless plug. So yeah, I am the author of this new book, Big and Bold, Yoga for the Plus Size Woman. That's me. And today we're going to be talking about props. And so I have helpfully bookmarked where the props chapter is. And there's a lot more than just the things that I'm going to talk about, but what I'm going to talk about today is this section here called Basic Gear for Supported Yoga Practice. Now, there are, where is it? There's a deep dive, if you can see that, it says Yoga Props Deep Dive, where I get more into like a number of other yoga props, but today we're going to talk about like, if you're just getting started, the things that you're going to want to know about. The deep dive is great. Those things are awesome. I have all of those things. But you don't need all of that. And so that's kind of where I want to start is I'm going to tell you about props. We're going to talk about props first. Then I'm going to tell you and show you what they are and how they can be used and like why you would want to do that. But we're also going to talk about DIYing your own props because yoga can cost a lot of money, but yoga doesn't need to cost a lot of money. And our culture has really embraced the fact that yoga can cost a lot of money. And so one of the things that I talk about in my book is like how to DIY versions of props. And you could use that DIY version forever. You could choose to use that DIY version until you know whether or not you'd want to spend money on like a nicer version of that. Yeah, so let's get into it. Like I said, I have a lot of things. So I do have my notes here. So if I look down, it's because I'm looking at this crazy piece of paper. I just have so many things to tell you and I don't want to forget anything. So let's start with WTF are yoga props anyway. Yoga props are tools. They range from a tiny little bag of rosin to like dry your hands and feet if you're sweaty, to crazy contraptions to help you, kick up your legs into a handstand and everything in between. Yoga props can be anything. Yoga props can be hundreds of dollars. Yoga props can cost $0. But I want to start with the myths about yoga props that I hear over and over again, or the misconceptions about yoga props. And there's more than the ones that I'm going to tell you, but I, only have an hour. So I picked a few. Yoga props, this is all air quotes. Yoga props are for people who can't do it, who are weak, who are less than. Yoga props are only for beginners. Yoga props are for me to use until I don't need them anymore, until I get stronger and better. Yoga props are only a fix, a band-aid for the moment. They're not to be used forever. And that it's better. I have to do this because I hate even saying these words. It's better to do things without props. It means that you're more of a yogi if you can do things without props. All of these things, you can tell by the tone of my voice and the air quotes. I hate everything that I just said so much. And it's all bullshit. So, spoiler alert, I cuss, sorry. I will try to rein it in. So yes, all of these things are completely untrue, but there are also things that we collectively have come to believe that are reinforced by yoga teachers, by yoga studios, by yoga culture in the West, like just everywhere. These things are reinforced. And they're also reinforced by fat phobia and ableism and ageism and healthism. Like they're reinforced by everything, by yeah, from every direction, magazines and TV, from Instagram, from in person, like they just come at you from everywhere. And I'm here to tell you, and I talk about this so much in the book, all of these external voices are wrong, basically. So here's the like counter to all these myths. You are the boss of your body. You get to use yoga props as long as you want. You could be an advanced yogi, whatever that means, and still use yoga props. Yoga props enrich your practice. They can enrich the practice of anyone practicing yoga, from the most advanced, famous yoga celebrity to the person who just literally is trying yoga for the first time. Yoga props make everything better. Yoga props are not just to make it easier to do a pose. They're for so much more than that. They help you to find support. So I have these 4 keywords that I always use for this, and it's support, stability, challenge, and interest. So yoga props help you find support, of course, like that's what everyone thinks of, like, oh yeah, support, help, make it easier, make me less wobbly, whatever. So stability, less wobbly, more confident, more comfortable in some poses. But let's talk about the fact that yoga props can also create challenge. Yoga props are not just to make things easier. Sometimes you use props to make it harder, because some days you're like, oh, I'm here, that's enough. And you want like a chill version of your practice. Other days you're like, let's go. You're like ready to take on the world. You're like, I want to push myself today. I'm feeling it. Maybe I want to get sweaty today. I want to like really, be in my body and feel all those things. Cool. We can use props to create accessible challenges. And accessible challenge is a term that you'll hear me say a lot. I use that in my own practice, in my teaching, and in the book. And what it means is that, especially for everyone, a challenge can look different on every body, but especially if you are a fat person, you're in a larger body, the way that you find challenge in the same pose as a straight size person might look very different. You might be feeling the same things, but your body position or shapes that you're making or alignment might look very different. And that's just because we have different kinds of bodies. When you are larger, sometimes the way that your body is aligned has to be different to feel the same thing as somebody in a straight size body. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. But basically, props can also create challenge, and you can control the level of challenge by using the prop differently. And we'll talk more about that. And then the last thing is interest. So we had support, stability, challenge, and the last one is interest. Sometimes props are just there to experience a pose in a new way. Imagine that you fall in love with yoga, you practice for the rest of your life. You're going to get bored if you do it the same way every time. It's fun to mix it up. That's why we have different sequences. It's why we practice outside or inside, or we practice slow, or we practice fast. Like, we like variety. Humans like variety. And one of the ways that we can find variety and interest and keep things fresh is by using props. So support, stability, challenge, interest. Those are the things that props can do. What props can't do is fix your body or make your body work for the pose. Here's something that was monumentally impactful for me, which is props make poses work for your body. It's the pose that's the problem, not your body. Let's say it again. Say it out loud with me. The pose is the problem, not your body. And I know that goes counter to like everything you've ever been told, probably, that your body is the problem. You got to fix your body. You got to change your body to make it work for the world or whatever standards and whatever situation. But in yoga, we meet our bodies where they are, and we approach yoga, we approach life with the understanding that our bodies are not the problem. And so then we find ways to make the poses work for us. And we do that with props. And we do that with just different options to practice the poses. If this is all sounding really scary to you and you're kind of like, oh, this is not where I am, that's okay. If you are still in like, oh, my body is a problem, listen, I get it. I was there for a very long time. Body liberation and yoga. I always say this equation. Yoga plus body liberation equals healing. What is it healing from? It's healing from beauty standards. It's healing from internalized capitalism. It's healing from eating disorders. It's healing from trauma. It's healing from our existence as human beings in the world and everything that we deal with, but especially if you're in a large body, especially if you're disabled, especially if you're a person of color, especially if you are older. These are all things where the world tells us that there's something wrong with us. Yoga and body liberation literally saved my life. I don't think that I would be here literally talking to you today if I hadn't found those things and put them together and gone down that path. So when I say that it saved my life, I mean it literally. If you want to hear more about that, I wrote about it in the book. Let me get focused because it's already 15 minutes in. So basically what I really want to impress upon you is that yoga props are not like a band-aid fix until you can like do the real thing. Using props in a pose is the real thing. It does not invalidate your practice to use a prop. The most advanced yogi can benefit from the use of props, and anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong and they're lying to themselves and they have really drank the Kool-Aid and they are not on the same page. Props are great. I love props. The end. Okay, let's get into it. Some things that I want to say are you deserve to use props. One thing, and you know, this may or may not resonate with you, but one thing that I used to do is like punish myself when I was like hating my body and hating myself. I used to deny myself like the use of props or the use of something that would make my existence more comfortable or safer or more or easier as like a punishment for like having the body that I had. And whether you do that subconsciously or consciously, it is a thing that we're kind of trained to do, and it's super gross. But I've talked to so many people who are like, yes, absolutely, I did that. When we push ourselves too hard just to prove that we can do it, to show other people that we can do it, not because it feels good because we want to do it. That's what that is. When we don't allow ourselves to use props that would make our practice better, that would really enrich it in so many ways, like that's what we're doing. So you deserve to use props. You deserve comfort and stability. You deserve what a thin person would give themselves. You deserve what a non, you know, self-loathing person would give themselves. And I say that knowing that like the world teaches us to be that way. It's not a condemnation of you. I have lived this experience, believe me. So all of these things I say like with a laugh because I'm like, yep, that was me. Okay, so let's jump into the actual props. So the ones that we're going to talk about today in the book are yoga mats, yoga blocks. Oh, I had a lot to say about mats and blocks, blankets, bolsters, chairs, and straps. So we're going to get through all of that in the next like 42 minutes. So let's get going. I'm going to move away. So if you want to ask a question, if you're here live and you want to ask a question, go ahead and type it in the chat. And I will see it when I glance back at the computer. So let's go. Okay. So there's a lot of different kinds of yoga mats. You can see I have this like fabric bucket thing that I have mats in. I have 4 mats that I keep out here. I have others but that I don't need to have. This is the thing about being a yoga teacher is you end up collecting props. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about though is material and size. And so let's start with a material that you're probably very familiar with. I'm going to try to show you the texture. Here we go. So this is that foam, that textured foam. It's like this thick. Very familiar. This is like, if you think of a yoga mat, this is the type of mat that you're thinking of. It is, I forgot what the technical materials are. It's all in the book because I did the research, but I don't remember off the top of my head because, whoa, science sounding words. So this is like a standard yoga mat that you would find. It's that foamy material. Look at the width of this mat compared to the width of my body. It's like barely larger. And so we're going to talk about size. So you undo it. Here's the length. So I am about 5'5", and you can see that this mat is just, where's the end? There we go. Just longer than me, but also with my arms out is not as long as me. So there's a lot of things to be said about size and material and thickness. If you haven't started looking at yoga mats yet, like, be warned, there is a whole world of yoga mats out there. Things that you're going to want to pay attention to are the material, the thickness, and the size. And I guess size is kind of part of, or thickness is part of size, but this is a, I believe, 5mm mat. If you enjoy comfort, I would tell you not to get anything thinner than 5mm. Even this, for many people, is very uncomfortable. You can, however, layer yoga mats. So if you decide that you want a thicker mat, get two. These are pretty inexpensive, this type of foam mat. Now, let's look at sizes. So look at this. Standard, this is a wide mat from a brand called Manduka. This is a different material, and I'll show you up close. It's much more expensive. This mat would probably be like $20. This mat was like $100. But I just want to talk about size really quick. All right. Now, look at this black one. This black one is the same foam as the yellow one. It is an extra wide, extra long mat, and it's the bomb. This is from yogaaccessories.com. I'm going to send an email out after this video with links and with a handout about DIYing things. So don't worry about writing things down. So I just want to show you the variety. I have another one in there, but it's basically the same mat as this teal one, so I'm not getting it out. So here you can see standard, wide, extra wide. These are hard to find. They're you're not going to walk into a store and find this unless it's a specialty store. You're going to have to get this online. I love it. It is that same thickness as this one in that foamy material. I love the width. It's very comfortable, but it's not great for every situation. Example, on a rug, it moves around. So I don't use this one in this room anymore because now I have this rug. I now use this one because it doesn't move around as much. So I wanted to show you the size on that. Now let's talk about a different material. So this is the one that I said was from the brand Manduka. Now look, you can see, hopefully, that it's smooth. Here's the end. So you can see it doesn't have all that texture like the foamy one has. It has like a printed dot texture. And then on the top side, it has like a lightly, you know, like how linen looks, how it has like a faint like grid pattern that you can see, but it's like very light. Obviously this is not linen, but it kind of looks like that to me. Very faint lines. Oh yeah, you can kind of see that. So this material is very different than that foam. It is about the same thickness, but it is really dense. This to me is more comfortable, more supportive than the foam because it is denser. It is a completely different material than the yellow one and the black one, that like standard foam that you see. I don't remember what kind of material it is, but it is, to me, more comfortable and more supportive. So this is an investment. This, I wouldn't even buy it for myself. My husband bought it for me for my birthday one year because I wanted it, but I wasn't going to buy it. So I don't remember how much it was, around $100, maybe a little more, maybe 120, something like that. But this mat will last me for the rest of my life. So that's the thing. Those other foam mats, they die pretty quickly. You can really wear through them. They rip. Cats, oh my God, cats will destroy them, but they're cheap. But you would end up buying it over and over again. So for me, because I know that I like yoga and that I'm going to keep doing it, this is a good investment, especially if somebody else buys it for you. But if you're not sure about yoga and you want to get a mat, I would get a foam mat because you can always upgrade later. But once you buy the expensive one, then it has been purchased. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is maybe you don't even need to buy a mat, at least until you decide whether or not you really like yoga and whether you're going to keep doing it. So I go into this more in the book. I'm just going to briefly mention, like, if you don't want to buy a mat, because like this stuff, the cost of these things adds up, and I don't want not being able to afford all the stuff to be the barrier to you trying yoga. So say you want to practice on your rug, you can. You have to be careful. You have to be mindful about a few things and like not slipping and stuff. Maybe you want to practice on your wood floors or on your tile floors. You absolutely can. There's different parameters that I would say to set for yourself in those scenarios, but they also make like yoga mat socks and mitts so that you could practice anywhere. And the expense of buying the mitts and the socks is going to be less than buying an expensive mat. I'm not going to lie and tell you that I remember how much those mitts and socks are, but do you have grippy socks already at home? Lots of people already have those where it has like the like rubberized grips. Ta-da, that's a yoga mat on your feet. Huzzah. So just something to keep in mind. You don't even have to have a yoga mat. There's so many things you can do without a mat. And if you want to do everything without a mat, just be careful and be mindful and set yourself up for success in the best way that you can. All right, so let's move on to blocks. Let me put a mat down. All right, yoga blocks. Yoga blocks are used for a number of reasons. You can use them for support and stability. You can use them for challenge. You can certainly use them for interest. What is happening? Okay, so I'm going to show you these blocks. These are the most standard, the most average basic yoga blocks you will ever see in your life. So they are 4 inches by 8 base, 8.5, 8 3/4 inches by same. No, I already measured that. Sorry, y'all. Oh my God. Here we go. 5.5. So this is a foam block. If you've seen a yoga block before, it was probably this kind. Very lightweight, which is nice, especially if it falls on your foot or something. They make wood blocks and cork blocks that are kind of heavy and like it'll hurt if it falls on you. So this is a foam block. This is 4 inches. They also come in like a 3-inch version. And they also come in other sizes. So this is what, 8 3/4. I said they also make some that would be like 10 inches. They also make some that would be like 15 and then like proportionally wider. They call them super blocks. Also available in many online stores. I always say yogaaccessories.com. I'm not an affiliate. I have no skin in the game. That's where I order things from because they usually have the best price. They don't have like such inflated prices, and I think it's because they don't have like brands, but like they're very good things. I outfitted my entire, when we were still doing in person, I outfitted my entire studio worth of mats, blankets, blocks, and straps from them. Super nice quality. Highly recommend. Oh, bolsters also. Anyway, so these come in other sizes. If you walked into a studio, this is what you would find, most likely. If you want to like splurge and get more, get a super block or 2. They're bigger, wider. They're amazing, and they make it so fun to do different things. But if you were only going to buy, I gotta control myself. If you're only gonna buy, you know, one set of blocks, get these 4 inches standard blocks, foam. They're cheap. You can get usually, or not usually, sometimes they're sold in a set, so you can get two. Don't get just one block. Please get 2 blocks. They're not that expensive. Of all the things to purchase, blocks are not that much. They do make them out of other materials, cork and wood, maybe some other things. I don't particularly care for those kinds. I find them to be uncomfortable, like to lay on. I find them heavy and sometimes have hurt myself, like if it falls off or something like that. You know what? I love like the basic yoga block foam. It's lightweight. I already said that. Anyway, they're very sturdy. I've been using this specific pair of blocks for years. And I mean, you can see they've got like cat bites and like dings and divots and stuff, but they're great. They're still really functional and I love them a lot. So why do we use blocks? The number one reason that we use blocks, I would say, is to bring the floor closer. So for example, blocks on the highest height right in front of me. Now, I'm not warmed up, so I'm gonna be easy on myself, but if I were gonna do a forward fold, see my knees are still bent and my fingers just touch the floor. Especially in the beginning of your practice, like I said, I'm not warmed up. So if you're not warmed up, your body isn't gonna release fully into the posture. See, like just as I stand here. Anyway, if I start to straighten the knees, I don't have a lot of support here. But if I bring blocks under my hands and then I can dial them down to whatever height, I'm so supported. It just raises the floor up to me to give me that support. So that's in a forward fold. But there's a lot of reasons why you might want to bring the floor closer because it makes poses more accessible. So here's down dog. I always do this with blocks because that's how it feels best to me. The other way would be to do it on my hands, but I don't love that. So I do this, and then I can really focus on being in the pose instead of struggling to try to get into the pose. So, oh, that felt good. I haven't moved today. So that's bringing the floor up, and there's, I mean, countless ways to demo bringing the floor up, but I'm trying to be quicker. So that's bringing the floor up to meet you. And I think down dog is a really good explanation. Oh my God, I can't think of the word. Anyway, down dog is a good one to demonstrate that because when I'm hands on the floor, I'm just like trying to be there and I lose connection with my breath. I'm not thinking about my body. I'm not really thinking about alignment. I'm just struggling to stay there. But when I do it with my blocks, oh, I can like breathe a little easier. I'm not struggling. Now I can go, oh, what does my breath feel like? How do my thighs feel in this? How are my legs feeling? How's my core feeling? I can really be in my body and get the benefit of down dog, which is supposed to be a resting pose, which it is or isn't for certain people. It took me years of practicing before I allowed, remember I talked about like not allowing myself to use props, before I allowed myself to use props and down dog and finally got the benefit of the freaking pose in the first place. So don't be me. You deserve props. Give yourself props now. Don't spend years suffering when you could be like actually getting benefit. So yeah, so that's a good description. So other reason that we use props is to find stability. So here's a good demonstration of that. I mean, there's so many. So prop on the ground, and I'm going to come into a posture. Where is it? There it is. All right. And sorry, it's a balance pose, so it's hard to jump straight in. Okay, this is one version of eagle pose. Now here I have my foot on the block. It's giving me a little more stability. If I were to take it off the block, I have less stability, which is fine. This is a great way to practice. But if I want to focus on alignment and like engaging things and not be struggling or still kind of struggling, I can use that prop, that block. Oh, my supporting leg. It's a lot. So here it's just giving support to the foot so that I could really be in the pose and not be wobbling around. So it's somewhat similar to the down dog where it kind of let me be in the pose instead of struggling, but for a different reason. So here it was providing a little stability. In down dog, it was bringing the floor higher. So another way to use a block is to create challenge. So here's a good example of that. So the pose, let me put this down. Warrior two, right? Very recognizable. People, even if you don't know yoga, you know this pose. This can already be a very challenging pose if you engage and reach and do all the things. But if you're like, I want to crank it up a little bit, you can take this block, super light, super light foam, and it is going to add so much challenge. I put it on the top of my hand, reaching out and then holding here. Just that little, it's like so light, right? It's just foam. Just adding that can make it harder. So that's one way to make it harder. Another way would be to bring the block between the thighs or the knees, and you have to squeeze together to keep the block from falling. So squeeze, and then we'll come into chair pose. I'm gonna bring my arms in. So here, if I don't squeeze, then the block starts, I can feel it slipping, it's gonna fall. So if I don't squeeze at all, the block falls out. If I squeeze, it makes this harder. So there you go, creating challenge for yourself, forcing the body, or forcing, in that example, the thighs to engage and really squeeze together. And you feel it, like you have to work so hard. Yeah, so that's a quick rundown about these blocks. There are tons of other styles of blocks. I could spend a whole hour talking about different kinds of blocks and why you would use them. And people are really still innovating about blocks. There's new kinds coming out all the time. This is not a new kind, but I did want to show you. So it just looks like a rectangle. Oh, it's that thick. Nope. So this is a wedge. So here's one that is helpful, especially if you're a person who has wrist issues, words. So this, for people who have wrist issues, like in a pose where you're bearing weight, can be really helpful. So for example, I'll put it here on the floor. I'll go back into down dog. So if I'm going to do down dog without blocks, which I don't like, but if I were going to do it, walk my hands out, knees without that. And so here, the angle of my hands here, if I have wrist issues, that's going to be pretty uncomfortable. So if I use this, I can control it to where, I can control the angle. So when I'm in it, it's not going to be like this. It would be like this. It's also good for hands and knees. Sorry, I don't want to go into it because my hands are a little sweaty and I don't want to slip. That's where that little bag of rosin comes into hand. But let me not face plant during this. So, but you can see how it would put your hands at more of an angle. Instead of being like this, it would be like that. So there's all kinds of times when this is useful. It can also be helpful. Here, I'll show you from the side. So if you're doing like a squat, so say I'm doing this, right? Just a squat down, and my heels stay on the ground, but that's because I do this a lot and I have that flexibility in my calves. A lot of people's heels would be up. So maybe that starts feeling uncomfortable or unstable. So here you bring your heels up onto the wedge and come into it. All of a sudden, my heels are still up, but I have something, I'm grounded to the wedge, getting that support, and it's so much better. So here's a way of finding that support. And that's just this one, this one block. Now, I wouldn't tell you like, this is the only block you should have, or you should get this one first. Definitely get the basic guides over here. This is just, this would be in the deep dive, but I'm telling you about it anyway. And then DIYing, there's a lot of things that you can do to DIY blocks. Anything that can be stable and hold weight can be a block. I don't have any in here. You have some books. You can wrap them in paper like a present, duct tape around that like a lot so that there's no paper showing and it doesn't feel like, you know, it's going to twist or anything weird. There you go. Now you have a block. Now I also have been saving these just for this moment. Here are some packages that have arrived at my house. They are different sizes. They're not quite block sizes. This is probably the closest one, but they are like really nice cardboard. Like I can press, what I would tell you to do is, oh, it still has the tissue paper, fill it up with pieces of cardboard. So say you get a box, cut it up into pieces that fit inside here so that it's full of cardboard and therefore more stable and substantial. But like this already is like really good. There you go. And then duct tape around it just so that it doesn't open, it doesn't, you know, nothing comes out or whatever. And there you have it, a block for free. Here's another one. This is a little bit smaller, but still great. This one is not as strong as the other one, but once you filled it up with cardboard or whatever you've got that is sturdy and that you can fill this up with, block. Fantastic. Wrap it in duct tape, yoga block for free. And you're like, you know, recycling or reusing, whatever. You would be surprised at the packages that come into your house. So many of them can work. And if you don't get anything that's like just the right size like this, just take the ones that you get, cut them into the right size, stack, 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 till you get the thickness that you want. And know that it might compress, so you might want to make it a little bit bigger, and then compress it, really wrap the crap out of it in duct tape. Yoga block, especially if you're like, I don't even know if I like yoga. I don't even know if I want to buy yoga blocks. Don't buy them yet. You could use these DIY props forever, and be great. You just remake some whenever they start to fall apart. Just, you know, go through your recycle bin and start making them. Okay, so blankets. Let's talk about yoga blankets, which honestly, a yoga blanket is just a blanket, but there's a certain size. So here's my favorite one that I have in this room. This is a yoga blanket, but it's just a blanket, y'all. What you're looking for is something like couch blanket size. Here it is. This is the full blanket unfolded, so you can see the size. We all have these, right? Like you probably have one on your couch or in your living room right now. Common thing. We use them, we fold them up in different ways and use them to support, to make more comfortable. You can unfold it and use it literally as a blanket. You can fold it up like this to sit on or to go under your head. There's so many uses for a blanket, and you probably already have one in your home. You don't need to go out and buy a yoga blanket unless you really just want to. Some of them are very cute. So I use a folded yoga blanket just like that to sit on, and it makes sitting on the floor really comfortable. Here's another one that I have. This one is a little bigger and is made out of, or is woven differently. So you can see it's a little bit longer, it's wider, but actually it's not, it's like thinner, and it's a, it's a lawnmower going by. The yarn used, both the warp and the weft, are thinner than that one. So I kind of like that chunkier yarn because it folds up into a thicker support. This one is very nice though. It's very pretty. Honestly, I bought it because it was pretty. Oh, look, I'm like stripes on stripes. So folded up the same way. It just doesn't have the like body that you can see how this is like droopy. The other one would go flat and hold, and then it's just not as thick. But it's a great blanket. I love it. If you're looking at the blankets you already own in your own home, you want something that has a tight enough weave that like your fingers aren't going to poke through it. You wouldn't want like a super holey blanket just because it's going to be annoying to use. If you don't have a blanket like this, a beach towel, perfect. A great alternative to a yoga blanket because beach towels are thick and they're usually a little bigger and they're awesome. I love a beach towel. I think they're very useful. So, and when they fold up, like they have a nice thickness to them. They're great. Honestly, love them. So things that we do with blankets, like I said, the one thing, if you take nothing else away, sorry, this lawnmower is killing me. If you take nothing else away from this, sitting on the floor on a blanket can make sitting on the floor so much more comfortable. You just scoot a little forward and it just angles you forward a little bit. So if when you sit on the floor, you feel like you're always like falling backwards, if you sit on a blanket, it'll just bring you a little forward and it makes it so much easier. This has been so helpful for my students. It's helpful for me. I love it. So using a blanket. I'm so sorry about the noise. You're literally just idling outside my window. Okay, so that is yoga blankets. What is next? Ooh, bolsters. Okay. So, oh man, the world of yoga bolsters. There are a lot of kinds. And I'm not talking about meditation cushions or pranayama bolsters, which you might also see if you start like Googling yoga bolsters. I'm going to talk about like the basic guys. And the most basic one is going to look like this. So this is about 12 by, oh, I don't remember. I remember that this is about 12. Yeah, like 24, maybe 28, 26, something like that. And it's like, I would say 4 inches tall. They usually come with removable covers so that you can wash them because they can get gross. Like this one needs to be washed. It's got like rosin and cat hair and like who knows what else, lint, glitter. So this is like, I would say, bog standard yoga bolster. And bolsters are amazing. They are so useful. This is a great one to use for sitting on the floor, like how I have the blanket. You could sit on this bolster instead, and it would be really comfortable and really supportive. There are tons of brands that make them. You don't have to get fancy. Like a bolster from any like reputable brand or online store, like a bolster's bolster, it's probably going to be great. I have not ever really seen like a terrible bolster, so you're probably set. Now, all of this with the caveat that bolsters can be expensive. So that bolster could be like $40. I don't remember. Technically, that one was gifted to me by Gaiam to do some photos a while ago, so I don't actually know how much that cost. But I did pay for this one. So this one is a bigger Mama Jamma. This one is from yogaaccessories.com. Hashtag not sponsored, but please sponsor me. And it is the Max Deluxe or Deluxe Max or something. So this one is way thicker, as you can see, and more firm. The black one was like more squishy. This is more firm. It's going to be taller. It's about the same width across. And it's a little bit wider this way. I would say this is probably 14 inches, not 12. Let's see. Put them next to each other. Yeah, probably close to that. The reason I like this one and that I recommend this one, especially for folks in larger bodies, is regular bolsters over time. Like this has definitely happened with this one. They compress. They are not as thick. They are not as like lofty or supportive. It's still great. I've been using it probably for a few years now. It's probably been like 5 years. I don't even know. And it's still great. I still use it all the time and I really like it a lot. However, this guy I have been using for maybe 8 years. Look how thick it still is. I mean, look, it's so thick and so firm. And I'm a big person. I like sit on this all the time and it looks brand new. The cover comes off. This is the zipper edge right here. The cover comes off. It's kind of a pain to put back on, but you can do it. But it just holds up really well over time. And I use this mostly to sit on and sometimes to like put under my hips, but mostly for sitting. And so that's when you really compress it and like it holds up so well. I really recommend this one. They also have this size. So like bigger than that one, they have this size in the not like max support. So if you don't need it to be so thick or so supportive for a larger body, if like, you know, maybe you're not in a larger body or you're buying for somebody who's not, you can get the regular version and it's probably cheaper. So those are rectangular ones. Those are great for sitting on. They're good for using in different restorative positions or restorative postures. You can put it under the knees, but if you want something specifically to go under your knees, I'm going to tell you a round guy. So here's a round bolster. Again, it zips off. There's the zipper. I bought this one and it has this cute embroidered design on the end with the ohm and a handle, which is always great because these things are hard to maneuver sometimes. Anyway, so if you're really looking for something to go under your knees when you're laying on your back, a round bolster is the way to go. They are less good for other things just because they roll or they're, you know, they're very tall, you know. And so like this is taller than the green one. And so might not work in some situations. It might like be too tall. But if you know that you want something to go under your knees when you lay on your back, this is the guy. Obviously you can do more than just that with these round bolsters, but that's really what I do with them. Because the other things that I like to do with bolsters, I do with the rectangular ones. And that's like putting under my hips to stretch the front. It's putting under my torso, belly down to do a sacrum stretch or a around the sacrum stretch. Yeah, if you want to try out like restorative yoga, stuff like that, or have really juicy, wonderful shavasana, bolsters are amazing. They're so helpful. They're MVPs. But they can be pricey. So let's talk about DIYing a bolster. What? So I'm going to show you my DIY bolster. And the rule is you're not allowed to make fun of me or make fun of it. Okay. I mean, whatever. Make fun of me if you want. I made this bolster. You can see how the stripes don't match up. I always meant to make a cover so that you never saw this, which is holding the stuffing in, but I never made the cover. So both ends look like that with the black thread. Stripes don't match up. I always meant to make a cover so that you could take it off and wash it. And then I never did because I was over it. By the time I finished this, I was like, I'm done. And so I can't take the cover off and wash it, which is why I'll tell you, it's really nice to have those where you can. So inside this guy, if you want to DIY a bolster, you absolutely can. I did this, no sewing machine, no nothing. As you can tell by this crazy black stitching, what I did was just looked around my house for towels. Honestly, I made this like 10 years ago, so I only vaguely remember what's inside. I think there's like a gross towel that had like rips and stuff in it. I know that there's a wool poncho that I was given and it was really cute, but I never wore. So I put her to work inside my bolster and she added good loft. So basically you just want to come up with a bunch of things, lay them out, and you literally just start rolling it up into a little like Swiss roll. And then I had this pillowcase and I just put it into the pillowcase, and then you can see the ends. So like the pointy ends, I just folded down and stitched down. So it's literally just a pillowcase. I did end up having to tighten, make it, smaller. Oh, you know what? I did that on a machine. So yeah, I sewed that on a machine, but you could absolutely do it by hand. And then the other end, just stitch down the corners. So you can take a rectangular pillowcase and turn it into a round bolster. Listen, this guy, I didn't get that other round bolster until like a few years ago. She did a great job. You just want to get it to the thickness, the size of the roll that you want it to be. You might have to like roll it up, see how big it is, add some more things, see how big it is, but you absolutely can do it. You can totally DIY your own bolster. She's a little lumpy, but she works great. All right. So that is bolsters. Let's talk about, chair. So I say yoga chair, and like, listen, you can buy a yoga chair. They're like $80, and it's literally a metal folding chair. And so I just can't bring myself to purchase that because it just makes me mad to spend like almost $100 on a metal folding chair. And the difference between that metal folding chair that's a yoga chair and like a regular metal folding chair is so if this is the back of the chair, there's like usually like a metal piece that like fills in the back. It just doesn't have that piece. Sometimes people like hack their own yoga chair, but I'm afraid of like sharp metal or whatever. And I find that using a dining room chair works great. So here's your DIY version. Get a chair from your dining table. So I have 3 rules about using chairs. Number 1, they're amazing. This is not one of the rules, but just like yoga chairs are amazing. Almost every time that I do my personal practice, I'm using a chair. I teach with them a lot. I think they're amazing. You can sit on them. You can stand and get stability. I can't even get into it. Oh, I think that so this is like a free event that I'm having in the month of December or November 2021. I think my event for December 2021 is the chair yoga thing. So if you're interested in learning like really how to use the chair, sign up for that. It's free. Or if this is the future, look for that recording because it already exists. So here are my 3 rules for using a chair in yoga. 1, don't pick a rickety chair. If you put your hands on it and it's like creak, 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 or like feels super unstable, do not use that chair. Do not use that chair. In yoga, we like put weight on the chairs and sometimes in strange ways. And so you want a sturdy ass chair because you don't want to fall on your face. Okay. Rule number 2, no wheels, no arms. If you only have a chair with arms, you can work around it sometimes, but it's really best to have no arms. And you absolutely 100% do not want wheels because that's really dangerous. And then the 3rd rule about working with a chair is that it goes on a mat. So remember when I told you don't have to have a yoga mat? If you're going to use a chair, put that thing on a mat. Even if the mat is only the size of the chair, that would be better, but not great. So probably don't do that. All four legs of the chair on the mat, and not like this. Don't do that. Put it like solidly within the bounds of the mat. This is a safety thing. And listen, I tell you this from experience. Do not do what I did. Don't hurt yourself. Save yourself the pain. Don't hurt yourself. The chair can slide a little bit. You want it to have room on the mat to slide. Some of the things that we do with the chair can be very weight bearing and can feel a little scary if you're new to using the chair. So one thing that you can do is put your mat up against a wall, put the chair up against the wall. So the edge of the mat would be at the wall, and then this part or whatever part sticks out the most would touch the wall. That'll make you feel much more comfortable. It's absolutely safe to do these things without the wall, but sometimes just mentally you need to like see that there's a wall there, and it's very helpful. The last thing I've got is a yoga strap. Man, there's a bunch of different kinds of straps now. I dig into that more, but today we're talking about the basics, right? So this is a 10-foot yoga strap. Straps are probably one of the cheapest things, like props, that you can buy. So if you want to buy a prop that you don't have a good DIY for, get the strap. There are good DIYs for this though. I'll talk about it in a second. So this is a woven cotton webbing, no stretch, nice and thick, really strong. They do make nylon straps, which are okay. I prefer cotton because it feels better on the skin, but you do you. If it feels fine to you, great. So one end is just strap. The other end is these D-rings. Now I prefer metal closure on the end rather than plastic, because plastic can break easier. Metal is gonna last you longer. And I'm always trying to buy things that are gonna last me a long time that I'm not gonna have to replace, because that feels better, right? Like financially and like sustainably for the world. So I like cotton, I like metal, and I like 10 feet, and that's long. And you might be like, oh, so I really need 10 feet? Yes, I think that you do. Most yoga studios are not going to have a 10-foot strap. Most yoga studios are going to have a 5 or 6 foot strap. They're fine. If you're straight sized, they're great. If you're in a larger body, there are some things that we do with the strap that at 5 or 6 foot is not going to be long enough. You literally won't be able to do it, or if you do, you'll be struggling, it'll be hard, when it could just be easy because you have a longer strap. So if you're gonna buy a strap for yourself, please do yourself a favor, get a 10-foot strap. So why do we use straps? Just like how we use blocks to bring the floor up to us, we use straps to, so which basically like elongates the length of your arm or the length of your leg or something like that. Straps elongate the length of your arms. And some great ways that we use them. So for example, one pose that gets taught, I'm going to show you the supported version because I don't practice the unsupported version. So one pose that gets taught in yoga involves a balance and an extension. So here, and then you can have your foot low, you could have it all the way up here. It's up to you. Oh, my body is not prepared for that higher to bring it up. Okay, so I'm going to do a low leg version here. Now, if I weren't using the strap, I would be reaching my foot. I would be touching my toes and bringing the leg up. First of all, even if I had super long arms, even if I had long enough arms, or like the longest arms in the world, I don't think that I could touch my toes, have a low leg option, and be upright. Let me come out of that. So what that means is, without the use of a strap, I would be forced to do the high leg version. And I would be forced to do a high leg version maybe that my body is like not wanting to do, and so balance wise is going to feel really hard. Maybe I'm being forced to do a high leg version that my hip or my various thigh muscles are not warmed up for, and so I could hurt myself. When if I just allowed myself to use a strap, boom, I can keep my good upright posture. I can have my leg where I want it to be, where it feels safe and correct for my body in this moment, and I can get the benefit of the pose. If I weren't using that, well, number one, I got little baby T-Rex arms, so there's no way that I could. But like, so for me, I would not be able to do that version. I would have to force myself into that, which I don't even think I could do, like, honestly. So there are some things that some people can do because their bodies are proportionally made for that. And there are some things that we just can't do. I have really short arms. You know, you see people like raise their leg up. My arms, even at my most flexible, that was hugely challenging for me because my arms just aren't that long. And so I would have to cheat the alignment, which is bad. we always prefer correct alignment to like depth or height or whatever. So using a strap then between my foot and my hand would mean that I could be in the correct alignment. I could be in the posture, but I wouldn't be damaging or potentially damaging myself. I wouldn't be struggling. I could actually be present, just like I talked about earlier. I'm not struggling. I can get the benefit. So that's one thing, is like extending the length of the arms. And you can do this for all kinds of things, like, where's my foot? Like runner stretch again, or like dancer pose, all kinds of things. It also just helps us to get into stretches sometimes. So like if I were seated on the floor, I could hook the ball of my foot, keep that good upright posture, really pull the toe back and really get that stretch. So like a chair version, it's the same thing in a chair basically. So we'll do the other leg. So here, straight leg out, really getting the stretch, really getting the stretch. Without that, I mean, I can pull my toes back, but I'm not really getting that same stretch. And if I reached with my arm, even if I were seated on the floor, my back would bend, and that's not the alignment that I want. I want super tall, lifted, straight back. So straps are really helpful. In restorative poses, you can like strap them around you to keep your legs in position so that you can be in that pose without like having to use any muscles to do it, which is great. So many things you can do with the strap. My favorite like series of stretches called the Wind Reliever series, it's all with the strap, and it involves stretching the leg in different ways, getting the back, getting the inner thigh, getting the outer thigh, like you get it all. And if you don't have the strap, then you have to be able to reach your toes even when your leg is out to the side. I mean, it's like crazy, like, and across, like there's no way that you could have long enough arms for that, I think. Anyway, but you use the strap and all of a sudden it's accessible to you and you can do it. So I'm sure you've noticed that a theme with the props is to relieve the struggle, right? Relieve the struggle so that you can get the actual benefit of the pose. And so going back to our keywords, support, stability, challenge, and interest, that is support and stability. And then for challenge, using the chair, you can do, we'll cover all the chair stuff. So using the strap, you can use that to like pull your leg. So say you're like in that runner stretch, right? So some people grab on with their hands. That doesn't work for me for various reasons, and it doesn't work for many people. But if I loop my foot and then pull the strap, I can really get into that stretch. And I can create more challenge for myself by continuing to pull. I can come into a twist with it looped around the foot, leg goes across the body. I can use that strap to move the leg around to change the level of intensity of that stretch. There's so many things, there's so many things, and an hour is not long enough. Also, I've already gone over an hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw this to a close. So if you have questions, feel free to comment wherever this is posted. If you're finding this on YouTube, feel free to comment below and ask your questions, and I will absolutely answer them. If you're finding this on Instagram or somewhere else, feel free to comment. Let me know what you think, how you have used props, if you've used props, if you learned anything new, if you feel inspired to try out props. There's so much more than this. This is like a basic level 101 overview of props, of like the most basic ones. We could spend hours talking about props, but I hope that this helped you get a feel, especially if you're new to yoga. I hope this helped you get a feel for like what props are and how they can help you. Oh, one thing that I haven't mentioned yet that props are great for is if you know how to use props to support and stabilize your body, to provide challenge, to create interest in poses. Like if you know how to do those things, you can go to any yoga class and feel confident, no matter if that teacher knows what to do with your body or not. Most of the time, they don't know what to do with your body if you are not like a thin, flexible, able-bodied person. If you don't meet those requirements, or parameters, they often don't know what to do with you, especially if you're in a fat body or especially if you're disabled. But if you know, then you are empowered to have a great practice regardless of the skill or experience of that teacher. And that confidence and empowerment and knowledge is priceless, and it allows you to explore and try without having fear of, will this teacher know what to do with my body? Can I make it through the class? Like, what if I don't know what to do? If you know what to do, you can make it through any class because you can do what your body needs in every moment. So obviously you can tell I have a great passion for props. They're very important to me and to my students, and I love them. So yeah, leave your comments. Check out my book if you're interested in yoga. There's clothing, props, all poses like seated, standing, warming up, cooling down, restorative. And then I created sequences. So if you're like, I don't know what to do, just follow the sequences that I made. There's like 10, 30, and 60-minute sequences. I tell my story. My story about trying yoga and hating it and then falling in love like a decade later. If that's interesting to you, if you would like to see photos of like actually fat people doing yoga poses, which you like do not find in other books, like legitimately super fat bodies doing yoga. Also, my friend Natalie is in here and she is so cool. Here's, I just found a page. So there's Natalie. So there's different kinds of bodies in here. Anyway, Big and Bold, Yoga for the Plus Size Woman. Wherever books are sold, you can get it. I'm going to be sending an email. If you're watching this in person, or if you're like on the list who registered for this, I'll be sending out an email with links and attachments. I have a handout about props and how to DIY them. If you're watching this in the future, I'll put as many links as I can wherever this is posted. And I think that is it. Thank you for staying a little bit over. I really appreciate it. It's hard because I have so much to say. But yeah, have a great rest of your day. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.